Hey, everybody, good morning. Todd Ferguson here with a mentor session with Accelerators Organization. So, for those that I haven't met, my name's Todd. I run with my wife. I run a 3PL warehouse or a third-party logistics warehouse in Southern Missouri. We also are e-commerce sellers, and we are also in a little bit of real estate. So we're going to use some of that experience to hopefully answer some of these questions, help you guys out when it comes to the things that you are working through and working with in your business. Just a reminder, you guys can submit your questions through the portal or through your app, actually. So if you guys don't have the app, you guys can get with Sean, but it's an app you put on your phone, has all the information that you guys need. There's a place to submit questions. It's a great way to do it. And just remember, as you guys are going through your business and going through things that challenge you maybe daily or weekly, those are great things to write down and then to ask those as questions in the group and or through the app, and you'll get the opportunity to have 5 or 6 mentors answer those for you. So we're going to get going in today and hopefully help you guys out. So the first question comes from Rohit, and Rohit asked, how many different items should we have at vendor events? So the business description says we sell exotic snacks and drinks from around the world. We've noticed that people can't make up their mind to so many different and unique items and eventually leave for that reason. We have about 5 to 6 items a category. So a couple of things that I thought of as reading through this, and you mentioned part of it is that there's so many different options for people when you set up your table or your booth, that people are leaving because it's just overwhelmed. And there's a thing called decision fatigue. And if you do any type of research on that, you talk about like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or even Jeff Bezos, any of the high level people, high level business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, they all really try to eliminate decision fatigue. And it's a real thing. And decision fatigue, the example that they use and that is used most of the time is they wear the exact same color of shirt and pants every day. So it's when they look in their closet, it's boom, they pick that out. There's no decision. And so I think if you start using some of that, it's not necessarily that strict, but if you start using some of that when you are bringing items, so that way people don't have decision fatigue. And so part of it too is, if it was me and I had something similar to this, I would look at, what are really hard things to find that people love? What has a cult following that as soon as people see it, they just go crazy for it? That would be something I would definitely bring. Also, you can think about, what is the highest return for you, the highest ROI, or that gives you the highest ticket sales or the average dollar sale, or however you want to call it. But what are those items? So what items will make people immediately want to buy them, and then which ones also produce the most profit for you? Those are the things that I would focus on first. And then also just think about what items do you have that make you memorable? What items do you have that make people automatically think of you again? And so that's the whole thing, is when you're at these events, it's not just a one-time sale or just trying to produce income. It's really focusing on getting repeat business to create brand awareness and to create a cult following is what is what I think of, especially if you're selling exotic drinks and snacks from around the world. If people travel to different parts of the world and they like certain things and they can't get those anymore, if you can provide those for you, there's memories that people have based on that. There's emotional connection to that, whether it's with them personally or with their family or whatever it is. And so if you look at it that way, is that you're creating a connection back to those memories. People will pay crazy money for that kind of stuff. So that's the way I would look at it. So again, just, what will people, when they look at it, automatically want to buy it because they just need it. They can't find it. It's hard to find what provides the highest ROI or increases your average dollar sale the most. So hopefully that helps. Next question comes from Kelly. Kelly asks, how do I become a better person and treat people better? And how do I learn to communicate as a business owner? How do I learn to communicate with key leadership and mentors in my circle? So the business description is owner of Kelco Construction. We're an excavating and trucking contractor for dirt work in Northern California. It's imperative that I learn to communicate with my mentors, advisors, leaders, banks, etc. Something must have happened to me in my past that changed me in not a good way. I need to figure out what this is, face it, learn to treat people better, especially trying to help me out. So a lot in this question. I'm going to kind of break it down, hopefully, the three questions that you ask here and answer those individually because I think they're all individual questions and have a little bit different answer. So the first one would be is how do I become a better person and treat people better? So I think for you, the first thing is that you recognize this and you have that, maybe the way you treat people or the way you communicate with them is not the best way. There's a ton of stuff that goes into that. It's, body language, it's the tone, it's all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think for you, it's really, if you have somebody that can kind of hold you accountable, that's with you, whether that's your spouse, a business partner, a friend, but whenever you interact with somebody, just a casual interaction, that you allow them to give you feedback or to talk to you about how that interaction went. And it's really, it's the easy thing to think about is the golden rule, which, it's just treat the people the way you would want to be treated. And it's really learning to go above and beyond that and to make people feel special, and make people feel wanted, and to make people feel valued is really the thing. And so if you really focus on that, that I think will really help as far as treating people better, becoming a better person. That's something that, we're, as business owners and entrepreneurs, we're always working on. But that would be the big thing, is just really, go into is like, how can I make them feel wanted? How can I make them feel valued? And how can I make them feel needed? Especially if it's somebody that you want to continue any type of relationship with. You talk about mentors, advisors, leaders, banks, all that kind of stuff. But it's really just taking a step back and asking yourself that. One thing as I go through this, I think a great thing is that you've already recognized that, some things might need to change or that do need to change with you. And I would just encourage you that it's not a huge, massive change at once. It's little bitty incremental changes that really, if you're looking to just, if you use a compass for an example, little bitty 1 degree changes actually make a big difference in the long term. You can't just make this huge change from, a 15 degree change all of a sudden. But, if you're making a 1 degree incremental change, your course that you're setting, if you're trying to get back to north, those little changes start to add up over the long term. But one thing that has really helped me is as I'm going through this, but I wrote this down, is there's a book called Extreme Ownership. And I don't know if you've read it. It's by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And it really talks about, how to take ownership for everything. And then when you, as I read that, I really was able to look at conversations, things that were going on in my life, and look at how I can affect those, even though maybe they're not my fault, or maybe maybe it wasn't directly correlated to me. There's always things that we can do to take ownership, and I think part of that is the way we talk to people, the way we treat people. So I would recommend that. How do I learn to communicate as a business owner? The biggest thing for me is professionalism. A lot of us we're used to talking to our buddies, to our friends, but as a business owner, there's kind of a certain level I think that most people expect. And so as a business owner, you've got to talk in certain ways to people. And so you got to make sure that, you're professional, your presentation's good, you've got all your facts in order, and that you know exactly what's going on. And so coming to a meeting or to a presentation unprepared is never a good thing. And so that would be a big thing that I would really focus on is with the business owner. Going to Chamber of Commerce meetings, to Toastmasters, to anywhere where there's other business owners, and learning and just watching people communicate, watching how they interact with other people, watching how they, talk and how they use their hands to communicate, and just how professional they are is a big thing. The other thing I really think about all this with communication is we really need to listen way more than we talk. And I know that's very easy that we want to talk about our business. We want to talk about everything that's going on, and we want people to learn about us and know about us. But one of the best things that I have learned is that the more you can listen, the more you learn. And then when it's your turn to talk and your turn to communicate, you've got facts, you've gathered information, and you're able to just communicate more concisely, quicker, and better. I know Sean is really big about just answering questions very concisely. And he shared some videos and, even feedback from me. When somebody asks something, we tend to just explain way too much. And so when you're listening more and you've gathered all the information, you can really communicate in a more concise and effective manner. And then how do I learn to communicate with key leaders and mentors in my circle? Kind of goes back to the same thing. Really just listen, take notes, be engaged, be involved with that conversation, and don't just let it be to where you're trying to take. It's, relationships are that it's two people giving or being able to work together. It's not just one side really taking. But again, with your leaders and your mentors, get in places where there are higher level people that you can watch, that you can emulate, that you can learn. When it's different when you're an entry level business and you're talking to other entry level business owners versus people that are running a 10 or 20 or $100 million company, how they interact with their peers. And so when you're able to get yourself in those situations, watch people and just listen, you're going to learn a lot. So hopefully that helps, Kelly. But again, Extreme Ownership, the book, if that works for you and you can get value out of that, they have a second book called The Dichotomy of Leadership, which is actually really good too. I've listened to both of them twice, and I've got great things each time I've listened to them. So, all right, next question comes from Sam. Sam says, how did you find the idea for your first company? So the business description says, I've worked in my family's grocery business for a long time, and I'm finally ready to start my own thing, but I don't know what. What would you advise me to look at in my life to figure out what would be a good business to get into? Thanks. So there's really two questions is, what would I advise you to look at in your life? And then where did I get the idea for my first company? So my first company was actually, well, first of all, I've been selling online since I was 18. So that was kind of my first company business, whatever. I made money. I flipped baseball cards and golf clubs and different things. But my first real business that I had, I partnered with somebody and we started a cleaning company. And clearly, a cleaning company for me is not something that I'm passionate about. It's not something I enjoyed. But I was at a point where I needed to make money, and there was low level to entry, low cost, like the machinery we could rent if we needed to, didn't have to purchase it. And I was really trading my time for money. So it wasn't a real business. I was just really creating a job for myself. And so I did that. And that's how I made money from my family. I was able to fund my e-commerce business eventually. So we took some money from that and started. And so it's never, I didn't come up with any business ideas that were just out of the blue. I do now because I've learned and I have time to think, and I interact with people and network, and just allow that freedom of my brain to work that way. But my first couple businesses really were just out of necessity or out of opportunity. And so we had sold on eBay for a really long time, and somebody had told me about Amazon and how it was different than eBay, and it was really just an opportunity for us to get into that. And so that's how we got into that. As far as the 3PL business, I just saw an opportunity because people don't like to manage people. They don't have the space. As far as where we are, the space to rent or to lease is significantly cheaper as far as warehouse or office space, and then they just didn't have time. And so for us, we prep stuff. Our 3PL, we do what's called prepping for Amazon businesses, Walmart businesses. We send stuff into Amazon for them, and so there was just an opportunity that our friends had asked us, hey, can you do this for us? Can we ship our product to you and you do this for this? And then the more we found out, the more we talked to people, and the more events we went to, we saw that was a need, and that's how that business came about. It's not like I love it. I do enjoy it, but it's not something that I'm super passionate about as far as, man, I wanted to start this business. It was just out of opportunity and then necessity. And then the real estate stuff, we're just really looking for arbitrage opportunities or opportunities to buy businesses that have that are cash flowing already. But so the idea I didn't really come up with anything great. It didn't just hit me. It was just opportunity and then necessity, and so how I can make money. But as far as if you've worked in your family's grocery business for a long time and you're ready to start your own business, I would really look at where are the pain points in your family's grocery business, what could be done better, what product or service would make similar businesses easier? Where could you make money from that? If you're already in a business or know a niche, usually you know more than most people. You've seen what works, what doesn't. You've seen, what frustrates people. You've seen all this kind of stuff. And if you really take a step back and look at things and, allow your brain to be free of distraction, whether it's music or YouTube or whatever, and just go out and take a walk or go run or just go sit in a hammock or whatever it is, and just let your mind kind of wander, you really start to come up with things and throwing stuff against the wall, and then really going through your ideas, figuring out your avatar, your ideal customer and all that. But I would really just dig into your family's business, even talk to whether it's your parents or your brothers or sisters or whoever, and do me and have a meeting and just talk about what are the pain points and what could be done better, or what vendors do you have now that just aren't living up to their expectations, or services or software or whatever that is, and really start to brainstorm, and you might come up with some stuff. But really, the people that make the most money and have the most successful businesses, Sean talks about this a lot, are people that solve problems. So people that solve a problem, for whether it's a service, a software, whatever it is, they solve a problem. And when you can solve somebody's problem, people will pay for that, especially entrepreneurs and business owners. People will pay to get their time back, so they're willing to pay money for that. And so if you can create something in the grocery business or something similar, I think that would be a good start. All right, next question comes from Kelly. It says, says, how do I become the absolute best owner / leader in my excavation company? We've already kind of went through his stuff, but he says he knows he's a great operator. I know that I'm one of the better drivers around. I know that I can work my ass off, but I do not know how to grow and lead a successful business. As I look to add team members, what are some things I should be doing to increase my skills in leadership and team building so I can grow the company? So for me, as far as leadership and being a good owner, the first thing, and I've learned this, I knew this, and now I'm really going through it and learning it, but really is, people don't talk about this a lot, but I know Joel does, but really you've got to get yourself in good physical condition, good mental condition, like even the food you eat, the stuff you drink. Really, it starts with you. And so it's how people see you and view you, and how you carry yourself and the confidence that you have. And so for like me, I know if I have extra weight on me, I'm not as confident as I should be. My decision making is not always the best. I worry about what other people think. And so I'm really working on, the foods that I eat, my exercise, getting great rest when I can. And that's the start. And so making sure that you have energy, you can do the things that you need to be done, that you're focused, that you're sharp, and all that kind of goes into that. So that would be the first thing that I would suggest that you just take a look at, is where can you work on those areas, whether it's taking a walk, whether it's starting to work out, whatever it is, but really releasing those endorphins, and not only will you start to look better, or physically feel better, but your mental acuity will increase. Some of my best ideas or problems that I've worked through has been when I've been running or working out, and it's crazy when you don't have the distractions and you're just going for a walk or run, and you let your mind wander, kind of like I talked about earlier, the amount of things that I have worked through. So that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to go to events. Sean puts on a lot of events, specifically around leadership, specifically around team building. So anytime you can go to one of those, for me, it's been a great investment. I could go through probably a dozen things over the last year or two that I've learned from events at Sean's, that I've participated in, that have made a drastic difference in our business and the way I lead, the way I build our team. There's that. There's other events too that you can go to. I talk about the extreme ownership earlier. Jocko has an event that I found great value in. There's tons of different stuff. Going to, there's different section or different chapters, I guess, for like for EO, which is the entrepreneur organization, which is kind of where Sean and a lot of people met. So there's anytime you can get around people and just and have conversations and talk, it's always going to help. But then the other thing that I get a lot of value from are books. And so I don't like to read, so I listen to them on Audible. Audible has a great thing. You can pay them every month and get a credit, or you can pay. I have to look. I think you can pay a little bit extra and actually get 24 credits total. And so my whole thing is I try to listen to 2 to 3 books a month. And if you're working out or running or doing whatever, if you're in your car, you can listen to those. I listen to them on 1.5 speed. You can still consume the information, so you can get through stuff a lot quicker. But I just got done listening to Winning by Tim Grover, a great book. It doesn't necessarily talk about leadership, but it talks about winning and leading a team or leading people, I guess. So it does talk about leadership, but leading people in a certain way. And so it's not trying to consume everything in that book that you're reading or listening to, but it's really picking out little chunks that you can implement immediately and start to see a difference. But for you, it's really, if you're hiring people, it's spending time with your team, going to events, reading books, and working on you. And the same thing we just talked about earlier for you is it's not massive changes immediately. It's these small incremental changes that keep moving the needle in the right direction that you can look at and quantify and say, oh, I remember this. I remember where I learned this, and this is how I implemented it, and this is a change that really worked for us. And so that would be, get around people that you know are great leaders and that you look up to. Spend time with them, whether they're your mentors or peers, but do that, read some books, and then work on yourself mentally and physically. So, Kelly, hopefully that helps. And the last question comes from Rohit again. Says, do you have any ideas for promotions as we look to open our first retail brick and mortar store? Description: we sell exotic snacks and drinks. Our brick and mortar store is coming soon, and figuring out which route is the best for promotions for our grand opening. We have thought of flyers and local newspaper so far. So just a couple thoughts here. I've worked in brick and mortar stores and retail stores. I've helped my family run them. I also work for larger corporations. And again, we talked about this, Rohit, in your first one as far as your vendor events is, grand opening, if that's what you're looking for, is to do a grand opening, is really, getting people in there is the first thing. So, making sure that your store's set up nice, signage is good, it's very welcoming, it's bright, all that kind of stuff. But it's getting people in the door. So what are you doing to get people in the door? So you can, run a blanket promotion. You can, get it to where it depends on also what your KPIs that you're monitoring and that are important to you. So your KPIs are your key performance indicators. Those are the points in your business, or the stats, that, if you want to call them that tell you if you are on track and if you're meeting the standards that you have. And so in most retail stores that I've worked in, you have things like UPH, which is units, or UPT, units per transaction. You have your ADS, which is your average dollar sale. You have your conversion percentage. That's the amount of people that buy stuff versus the amount of people that come in. You have other things like that, but if if you're focusing on stuff like that, is so how do I increase the amount of product that people buy every time they come in, the dollar wise, and then the total number of units. And so you can do a blanket percentage off. So you could say, hey, it's 20% off the entire store, or 15, or it's, buy 2, get 1 free of equal or lesser value. You can do, bundles. So it really is we talked about this earlier, what are your most profitable things where you have margin to discount them? You can look at stuff like that. You can just do a blanket percentage off to get people in. You can really have, if you're talking about your snacks and your drinks, and how we talked about this earlier, how they create a emotional connection to an event or a memory, is talk about stuff like that. It's have somebody come in. You could do, I don't know, balloon animals. You could have somebody out there doing that. It's creating a buzz and creating where people just want to come in because there's so much going on. The other thing that I would really encourage you is find a way to get them back in the store. So part of it could be that they receive a, if you spend $50, you get a $5 gift card that you can come back and use in 2 weeks or in a month. Something similar to that. So the whole goal is not just to get people in the first time, it's to get repeat customers, to create your cult following. You can create a loyalty program for that, but it's really is how do you find a way to get people back in your store soon? The grand opening, you'll see this huge spike in sales, and then you don't want it to just automatically go down and a flat line and create a lull. But it's how do I get people back in the store? So that would be something I would think about, is how to create a buzz to get people in the first time. So you can do a percentage off, you can do a BOGO is what they call it, buy one get one, and you can do that in a variety of different ways. You can create special bundles, you can spin a wheel for a certain discount. I mean, there's all types of stuff that you can think of. And then really, how do you get people back in your store again and again and again and again? So, all right, guys. Well, that's all we have. Thanks for the questions, everybody. And again, just go into your app, submit those questions whenever you're going throughout your week or your day, stuff that might stump you or that you come up with that you need a little bit of advice on. So, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to everybody next month.